Hi, everybody, and welcome to the White House today. My name is Andrew Cedar, Director for Global Engagement at the National Security Staff here at the White House, and we are thrilled to have you for what will be an extremely packed program with a wonderful group of people, a great group of discussions. As you know, we are gathered here during Global Entrepreneurship Week, which is bringing together 35,000 events all over the world in over 125 countries. And so I will be an incredibly succinct moderator today and turn you right over to our person to welcome you here from the White House, Deputy National Security Advisor for Strategic Communications, Ben Rhodes.
Well, thank you, everybody. I want to welcome you all to the White House to have a really exciting discussion about a very important topic here. I'll welcome Secretary Albright in a moment here as she's speaking next. We're also pleased to have with us Administrator Mills and Deputy Secretary of State Tom Nides, and all the winners of the JUST competition who are here today. We're also very grateful that Mr. Gergawi is here from the United Arab Emirates. Let me just begin by saying how grateful the President is personally that your government is hosting this summit. It's going to be, I think, an extraordinary success, building on the Entrepreneurship Summit we launched here in Washington that then continued in Turkey last year. We're also very excited to hear about the entrepreneurial ventures of Arabia that you all are pursuing. I think, again, this is a testament both to the very close relationship between the United States and the UAE, as well as the leadership on issues like entrepreneurship and private sector development that we've seen in the Emirates. So, again, we're very much looking forward to the summit there later this month. I'll just say a couple of words by way of introduction. The origin of our interest in this topic came in the first days of the administration. We were putting together the President's speech that he would ultimately give in Cairo. And as a part of that process, we wanted to look at the fact that we had a host of political and security challenges that obviously consume a lot of attention of the United States around the world. But there were other issues that we wanted to build partnerships on. There are issues that are important in people's lives that they wanted to partner with the United States on. And we literally went around the world, and not just through public opinion polling, but through listening to populations across the Middle East, across North Africa, Southeast Asia. We opened the doors of our embassies and consulates. We had roundtables, and we asked people, what do you want to work with the United States on? The United States obviously has a significant political and security role in the world. We address issues like counterterrorism and nonproliferation. We address issues of peace and security. But beyond that, in the issues that matter, in day-to-day lives, beyond security, but in economic opportunity, we asked people what they wanted to partner with us on. And entrepreneurship was at the top of the list as something that people saw a potential for greater cooperation and deeper engagement between the United States and other countries, as well as education and science and technology. And that was the origin of the inclusion of entrepreneurship in the President's Cairo speech. And the goal of the summit in the very first instance was, again, to bring together not just governments, but entrepreneurs, young people, business people, so that they could create a network and they could learn from one another. That we in the United States could learn from what people were doing around the world, and we could also bring to bear our expertise in this area to help people start small and medium-sized businesses and to bring ideas to commerce in other countries. So it's really launched a network that we want to see continue and grow far beyond the reach of the U.S. government in the countries where these summits take place and in the relationships that are formed between individuals. So it's very unique to President Obama's vision of how we can cooperate, not just as governments, but as people. I think he wanted to actually stop by today, but he's in New York touring the storm damage up there. So I'm sure he'll have an opportunity to send his greetings to the summit when it's hosted in the UAE later on this month. Again, just looking forward, I think we also recognize that this takes place, this summit and this meeting here today, at a time of extraordinary change in the region. But again, even as we deal with political change in different parts and different security challenges, ultimately it's going to be the focus on education, entrepreneurship, innovation that is going to lift up people, not just in the region, but back here in the United States and around the world. So those are the types of partnerships that we're looking to foster. One of the things you learn in government is There are things that the U.S. government can do through its own programming and its own assistance, but also just in terms of convening people and bringing together people who might not otherwise have the opportunity to get to hear from one another. And that's what we hope we're doing today, so you can hear from some of our senior-most people in the government who work on issues related to entrepreneurship, and also ultimately so you can hear from one another and carry those discussions forward. So I know you've got a packed program here. I won't take too long. Let me just first start by introducing Secretary Albright. Obviously, she needs no introduction in many ways. She's one of the foremost stateswomen of her time, really, serving as UN ambassador, serving as Secretary of State, and really being as articulate a spokesperson for American values as we've ever had around the world. She's been a very close friend and supporter of President Obama, for which he's very grateful. She's also been a leader in terms of the Partnership for a New Beginning, which was, again, a public-private partnership that emerged from the President's Cairo speech, where he spoke about not just entrepreneurship, but education, science and technology, and the ways in which we can forge partnerships that, again, go to the things that really can make a difference in people's lives, looking beyond, again, the immediate challenges we face to the future that we're trying to build together. So PNB, Partners for a New Beginning, has been a great forum to bring together governments and the private sector and interested citizens, and so we really appreciate her leadership in that regard, but it's just one more piece of a truly extraordinary career in public service. So Secretary Albright, welcome to the White House. We're glad to have you.
Thank you very much, Ben, for all your kind words, and good afternoon to everybody, and welcome. I'm very delighted to see Minister Gargawi with us. Thank you very much, and as was mentioned, UAE is going to be hosting the next summit, and I think it'll be fabulous. So, as a former diplomat who's made a transition to the private sector, I welcome the administration's focus on entrepreneurship as an essential building block of international economic development. And I'm also pleased to be here because, as Ben mentioned, among my various responsibilities is that of chair of the Partnership for a New Beginning, or PNB. And in this capacity, I'm privileged to have as co-chairs Mr. Walter Isaacson and Mr. Mukhtar Kent, who serve as president and CEO of, respectively, the Aspen Institute and the Coca-Cola Company. Now, the PMB is an innovative variation on the theme of public-private partnerships and was launched about 30 months ago, as Ben said, in response to President Obama's landmark speech in Cairo. The initiative was designed to contribute to the President's call for a fresh start in relations between the United States and international Muslim communities. Our program is based on mutual responsibility and respect and reflects the interests we each have in a dynamic economy that creates good jobs and helps people to enjoy richer and fuller lives. As we're all aware, this is a particularly acute challenge in the Arab Middle East, where a combination of population growth, inadequate education, a dubious set of economic policies has led to steadily rising unemployment, especially among the young. 75 million jobs must be created in the next decade just to maintain what, unfortunately, we could say is an unacceptable status quo. And this situation has been made both more hopeful and more complicated by the political turbulence that combines the promise of democracy with the trauma of rapid structural change. PNB cannot provide a comprehensive solution to these challenges, but because of its emphasis on harnessing the strength of both the public and private sectors, it holds the promise over time of achieving major gains. And so to this end, the partnership is focused on 4 goals: generating economic opportunity and entrepreneurship, fostering innovation in science and technology, improving education, and encouraging people-to-people exchanges between the United States and majority Muslim societies. So in just 2 years, PMB has established local chapters in 10 countries, helped to generate more than 180 partnerships, and enlisted the support of a broad array of prominent corporations, academic institutions, and non-governmental organizations. Its potential for future progress is bright because of the model, which is designed to take full advantage of local initiative, emphasize innovation, and capitalize on the administrative, training, planning, and marketing skills of our private sector participants. In a sense, PMB's role is that of matchmaker, as it brings together groups and people who would not otherwise come into contact. Now, this has already resulted in some intriguing combinations. For example, in Indonesia, ExxonMobil and Intel are working on a far-reaching rural education project. In Turkey, Coca-Cola and Cisco are assisting a group of aspiring businesswomen to establish themselves. In Tunisia, Microsoft and Intel Corporation are mentoring students with the goal of helping them to develop leadership and commercial skills. And in the West Bank, a delegation of American investors has provided training and business opportunities to young entrepreneurs. As we go forward, we're looking both to take advantage of immediate opportunities and to identify projects that will address the underlying conditions that have in the past posed a barrier to sustainable job creation and prosperity. In Jordan and throughout the Maghreb, this long-term perspective has led to a special emphasis on education and on nurturing the concept of critical thinking, which is essential to create new and competitive enterprises in the global marketplace. What we're learning is that young people in the Muslim world, like their counterparts everywhere else, are eager to learn and possessed of enormous productive potential. Problems arise when there is no constructive avenue for them to pursue their dreams and no system in place for helping them to develop their intellectual and entrepreneurial skills. In a world where technology is increasingly dominant, the gap is growing rapidly between those who have access to modern education and training and those who do not. And it's been said that history is a race between education and catastrophe, and that's obviously a race that we have to win. PMB is a new and exciting means for fulfilling President Obama's bold vision for establishing winning connections between East and West, government and business, and one generation and the next. And I urge your support and participation and pledge my own continued determination to help it succeed. So I'm delighted to see you all here and hope that you enjoy all the discussions. And it's now my pleasure to yield the podium to the Distinguished Administrator of the Small Business Administration, Karen Mills.
Well, thank you very much, Secretary Albright, and let me first start by welcoming all of you to the White House. You know, it is Global Entrepreneurship Week, and we are really celebrating all across the administration, all across the country, because it's an opportunity to really talk about the very powerful role that entrepreneurs play in transforming industries and in communities all over the world. It's also an opportunity to talk about the vital role that entrepreneurship plays in this area of economic statecraft. Economic statecraft, as you know from Secretary Clinton and Deputy Secretary Nides, puts economic and market forces at the center of American foreign policy. And it harnesses global economies to strengthen our diplomacy and all our relationships abroad. It draws on these relationships to bolster our economy at home through increased trade and exports. So there is no more powerful tool to advance these goals in economic statecraft than entrepreneurship. And I know that Deputy Secretary Nides is going to be talking more about this in a couple minutes. I want to take the domestic perspective for a second, because entrepreneurship is really at the heart of America's identity. It is the key to our economic strength. And it has built the greatest economy in the world and the strongest middle class. So the president talked about this a lot, but he had a proclamation for this week, and he said, America is known across the world as the country that empowers the inventor and the innovator. We're a nation where you can take an idea that starts around a kitchen table or in a garage and turn it into a new business or a new industry. And if you look around the globe today, countries are looking at trying to replicate our entrepreneurship infrastructure. To make this possible, I am very pleased to announce today a new partnership between the SBA and the State Department that will focus on economic statecraft and on entrepreneurship. The goal of the partnership is to take the best practices that we have developed at the SBA, assisting millions of entrepreneurs each year, and share them with our embassies, economic officers, and staff so that they can help government leaders all across the globe develop the tools and resources that are right for their economies. We have started with 4 pilot countries for our partnership: Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Peru, and Colombia. And we will soon be announcing another round that includes countries throughout the Middle East, Latin America, and Asia. And I really want to thank Deputy Secretary Nides for his leadership in the development of this partnership. So across the administration, we are focused on entrepreneurship and innovation. And at the SBA, our core mission is to provide access and opportunity to all kinds of entrepreneurs. I want to just tell you how we do this briefly. We call it the 3 C's. The first C is capital, access to capital. At the SBA, we have a loan portfolio of about $102 billion in loan guarantees. And last year, we had, the last 2 years, we've had record years, over $30 billion in new loan guarantees each year to entrepreneurs all over the country. One of them, one example, how many of you know Chobani yogurt? Well, Chobani yogurt was started with an SBA loan to a guy named Hamdi Ulukaya, who's an immigrant from Turkey. And he was in upstate New York, and he had the opportunity to buy a shuttered yogurt factory. He was making feta cheese, and he bought this factory and now has built one of the premier yogurt brands in the world. And I think Forbes magazine put it well, they call him the Steve Jobs of yogurt. The second C is contracting. We run the federal government's supply chain for small business. That's $100 billion in federal contracts every year going into the hands of small businesses. And it's probably the largest federal program that helps small businesses, and the cost to taxpayers, 0. Why? It's a win-win. The government is getting access to the most innovative companies, and usually at a cheaper cost because they don't have as much overhead. And the small businesses are getting what they need most, which is revenue, called oxygen, to grow their businesses. The third C is counseling. We know from our data that entrepreneurs who have a long-time counselor have better sales, they have better outcomes, they have better profits, they have more employees, they have more longevity. So we have an entire network across this country of almost 1,000 small business development centers, 110 women's business centers, retired volunteer SCORE representatives who mentor other entrepreneurs. And last year, these programs counseled over 1 million entrepreneurs. And the best thing for small business owners is they're free. Last year, we also continued our really important focus on exporting. As you know, President Obama has pledged in the National Export Initiative that we will double our exports over 5 years, and we are well on our way to achieving that goal. But at the SBA, we are focused on the small business exporters. It has never been a more advantageous time for our American entrepreneurs to look at global markets. And there's a company called Dementech. It's a medical supply company in Miami. It's used one of our export working capital loans to provide expansion to global sales. And they are providing medical equipment throughout the Middle East. And it's, the Middle East is now this company's largest market. All of this, again, is a win-win. Our loans mean that countries across the world can get access to high-quality American-made goods and services, and they allow strong business ties between all of our countries. This allows us to share best practices, create global supply chains, and can ensure shared prosperity. And it's not just the goods and services. We also want to make sure we export this whole model of entrepreneurship and innovation because we believe it changes lives and transforms communities. You know, the president talks a lot about entrepreneurs. And one of the things he says is the story of America's success is written by America's entrepreneurs. Men and women who took a chance on a dream, they turned that dream into a business, and they somehow changed the world. We want to make sure that more entrepreneurs in more countries have these same opportunities to build a business, to take a chance, to create innovative products and technologies that can change the world. So thank you, and it is now my pleasure to introduce Deputy Secretary of State for Management and Resources, Tom Nides. I have a little bit of info on him, if you don't know him already. He serves as the Chief Operating Officer for the State Department, and on a whole range of issues. He has been a great partner, certainly a great partner to us in exports, in entrepreneurship-related projects, and he's a tireless advocate for American business interests all across the globe. Prior to joining the administration, he was a senior executive in a number of financial services institutions, and it gives me great pleasure to thank him and to ask you to join me in welcoming Deputy Secretary Nides.
Thank you, Karen, for that very generous introduction. And let me first thank you for your leadership. We had lunch a few months ago or a few weeks ago. We talked about how we can continue working together and spawn this announcement that Karen made. The reality of this is the SBA and the State Department is not your normal allies, just because we work in little different territories. But Karen saw the vision that how we could work together to support not only small business, but increase, as Karen pointed out, in doubling the president's initiative or the export initiative that he has so laid out for us. And let me say, Ben Rhodes, we wouldn't be doing this without Ben's leadership. He has been on a tireless advocate of making sure these things work, and without the White House, as we know, we don't get anything done. It's because we blame them when things don't get done, so we give them credit when things do get done. So I'm honored that Ben would put this on. And my friend, Madam Secretary, thank you for your leadership for the country, first and foremost, and I thank you as a side unpaid responsibility helping us on the P&B, because again, this is how we use all of the elements of the public and private sector to make it real. So, Madam Secretary, thank you very much for your leadership. And let me thank all of you that came here today. As someone, as Karen points out, has a career that does include both business and government, let me say it's great to see my old and new lives collide in one room. So we all understand that diplomacy keeps America safe and strong, and we all recognize that entrepreneurship keeps America's vital and resilient. And it's part of our, quite frankly, our national story. But why are we as diplomats and entrepreneurs, why are we here together, which is I'm sure some of you might be asking. And I thought I'd use my brief couple minutes to explore why I believe we belong together. Let me start with why President Obama, Secretary Clinton, and I all care about entrepreneurship? The short answer is that entrepreneurship is at the heart of what we call economic statecraft. The idea that economic tools can advance our foreign policy and that our foreign policy can accelerate economic renewal. So let me explain in just a little bit of detail. First, we can't have stable societies without economic opportunity, and nothing creates economic opportunity more than entrepreneurship. Consider this. Just to remain at the current rates of unemployment in the Middle East, which, God, we all know is way too high, the Middle East needs to create 50 to 100 million jobs by 2020. We can't get there without unleashing entrepreneurship. Focusing on young people, on what we build together peacefully, is, as we all know, in everyone's interest. Second, promoting entrepreneurship plays to America's strengths. Our entrepreneurship is admired around the world. In my travels, which unfortunately has been fairly extensive recently, I guess all the time, how do we create the next Silicon Valley in our country? Bringing innovation and people together helps us bridge the divides that build richer, stronger ties across our borders. Third, many of our biggest global problems can only be solved through massive distribution of innovation. Think climate change, hunger, and public health. And finally, our focus reflects shared values. Entrepreneurship thrives when you know what matters more than you know. Entrepreneurs are the natural champions of ideas. They crave the space for creativity and possibility. These aren't just economic ideals, they are political ideals as well. Not just American ideals, but universal ones. And entrepreneurs are among the strongest of those voices. So our foreign policy is focusing on entrepreneurs through Secretary Clinton's economic statecraft, President Obama's global engagement agenda, and many other of the efforts that you're well aware of. But why should entrepreneurs care what diplomats have to say? Let me just lay it out for you very simply. First, entrepreneurs can't always go it alone, as you all well know. Whether they know it or not, they need open, free, and fair regulatory environments and policy environments that favor risk-taking. They need a business climate that makes it easy to start a business and to get financing, where legal uncertainties increase investors' confidence, where failure is just part of an experience but is not the end of the career. That's what we as diplomats can do for you. We promote these conditions around the world every day. Our work with foreign governments, we support entrepreneurs when we fight to prevent favoritism for state-owned companies. We fight when we prevent privacy and privacy in a way that helps unleash innovation, and when we fight corruption, wherever it is. Hundreds of economic officers stationed in American embassies and consulates around the world wake up every single day and ask themselves, how can they help people like you? And second, we are innovating in how we do diplomacy, using new tools to promote entrepreneurship around the world. We've sponsored countless delegations of entrepreneurs, technologists, and venture capitalists to connect investors with projects, to launch businesses, and competitions that will spark creativity, and to shine a light on the people like you who are making a difference. This is not traditional diplomacy, and I think, personally, that's pretty good. And finally, we're bringing entrepreneurs together at a conference like this one to exchange ideas and to make some contacts and to send a simple message. Entrepreneurship is important, and we are here to help. This week is a chance to call attention to what you have been doing and to get people excited about the Global Entrepreneur Summit that's going to be held in Dubai. Over 1,000 entrepreneurs, investors, mentors, academics, NGOs, foundations, corporations, and yes, a few of us diplomats will be gathered to accelerate and to look at your work that you're accomplishing. And I want to thank all of you in the government of the UAE for their leadership to pull off this event. And as Secretary Clinton has said, talent is universal, but unfortunately, opportunity is not. Entrepreneurship is one of our best tools to create opportunity for everyone. And on that point, I'd like to introduce the UAE Minister Garawi, who is here with us today, who has been the primary mover in fostering entrepreneurship in Dubai, supervising the launch of so many innovation projects, I can't even count them all. But they include the Dubai Internet City, the Dubai Media City, Knowledge Village, the Dubai Press Club, and to be honest with you, your leadership is what this is all about. So thank you, we're honored to have you, and please, the podium is all yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Secretary. Thank you for having me here. In his historic speech, New Beginning, President Obama said that the United States was shaped by every culture, drawn from every end of the earth, dedicated to a simple concept: out of many, there is one. This is similar to our story in the United Arab Emirates. My country didn't exist while I was growing up as a child. Today, it was formed in 1971. We grew up with almost no road, no university. When the country was formed in 1971, they were looking for university graduate to hire. The whole country had only 45 university graduates. 5 of them were female. So almost 40 years ago, we have 2 leaders who sit in a tent in the desert. They were entrepreneur in a different way. So we don't have to look at entrepreneur only forming business, but creating places, creating idea, creating a country. So Sheikh Zayed and Sheikh Rashid, in a Bedouin tent in the desert, they saw today of the United Arab Emirates. Some of you been in Abu Dhabi, some of you been in Dubai, and in almost 40 years, a new thing have been created. Sometimes just we look at the economy of the United Arab Emirates. From nothing, as I said, from no university. My city, we had only one high school in Dubai. I grew up as a child. I went to religious school. It was made out of barashti, which is out of palm oil, palm leaf. No electricity, no water. So when it comes to entrepreneurship, it's really, we believe that government have to take the lead in our part of the world. In a short span of time, when you look at our economy, we are the largest trade partner with the United States in our region, with China, with India, with the United Kingdom, with France, with Germany. From 5 female university graduates, today we have the highest enrollment for female, from high school to university, 92%, and it's the highest in the world. 70% our national universities graduated are female. 65% of the federal government workforce are female. And we are an Arab and we are a Muslim country. But we have entrepreneurs who sat at that tent over 40 years ago, and they thought, what is good for people? How we can take the whole society and integrate it with the rest of the world. And today, UAE is the hub for entrepreneurship. I recall a couple of years ago, one of the companies did a survey for youth in the Arab world. They asked one question: after you graduate, what's your favorite place or country to work at? 82% of them chose United Arab Emirates. I believe in our part of the world, the role of government is very important. We should be an enabler for business. Our job is to create the environment for young people to excel. There is no limitation for human capability. Everybody can be whatever he want to be. But unfortunately, in a lot of areas within our region, the environment has been killed. There is no regulation, there is no law, and there is no fair game when it comes to doing business. We wake up every morning in our country, and we've been taught that we have to look at the future. Somebody asked me, this is the Middle East. You should leave your office at 2 o'clock. Go home, have lunch, siesta. Why you stay guys late in your government? And my answer was for him, I do it because this is the right thing to do for my kids in the future. We live in a tough neighborhood. We gotta choose what sort of life our kids gotta have. And we see a lot of examples in the region. So by our work, by our dedication, somehow we'd like to have a path for them, the right path for them. The whole region lost 500-600 years of people's life. For thousands of years, the Arab world, the Middle East, were the center of the world. From the Venetian time, they were traders. They conquered basically all the known world. During the Silk Road, people of the region really were a major part of it. They were entrepreneurs. They were moving goods from the east, taking it to the west. In the 14th century, we stopped. When somebody else invented a different type of sail ship. I went through Africa and started a connection basically with the East. We lost 500 years. That impacted us, but impacted also the world. I heard the number, 75 million in the next 10 years. Of youth will be in the marketplace in the Arab world. 50 to 100. It doesn't matter, it's 70 or 100, but the number is huge. And our responsibility, basically, as government is to create the environment for young people to excel and have hope for their future. Either we have 100 million angry, extremist young people, or 100 million young people with hope that will add value to their region and to their life and to the rest of the world. So as a nation, we believe that there is an opportunity in the future. Maybe the rest of the world, they look at the Middle East and say, you know what? It's a tough neighborhood. And some of you, basically, when you travel, your friend asks you, is it safe? Our job in the government of United Arab Emirates is, we believe that we are a beacon of change for our region. The region needs a model, and they need a model within the region. And when I talked about education, when I talked about woman empowerment, we practice that. When it comes to gender equality, from 5 female university graduates, today we are #1 in gender equality in the Arab world. So the message that a lot of things can happen. If there is a vision, we are blessed by leaders really who foresee the future. We had Sheikh Zayed and Sheikh Rashid in a small tent thinking what's good for their people. Not what good only for themselves, but for the people. Today we have leaders who practice the value of true leadership. Sheikh Khalifa, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, who believe that in the economic principle. I flew in Emirates Airlines. They had beautiful 14.5 direct flight from Dubai to DC. My first flight from Dubai to DC. And in a short span of time, the story of this airlines is the story of really entrepreneurship. But the story of fairness and an open economy. And let me tell you the story. I was in university back then, but His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid told me the story of Emirates Airlines. In 1985, 60 to 70% of the business of Dubai airport was being run through one airline almost. So 70% of the business was being given by a certain airlines. 85, this airlines came to His Highness Sheikh Mohammed, ruler of Dubai, and said, we'd like to be the monopoly in this airport. We don't want other airlines to fly. Or we'll pull our business out. And if you're in business, you have a client who will come to you and say, I'll pull 70% of my business out. Most probably you'll say, no, stay, I'll give you whatever you want. But the value was, back then for Sheikh Mohammed, was he believed in competition and open economy. So either he stand for his value, or he'll stand for the other airlines and give them what they want. And we'll lose. He standed for the value of really open economy. So after a couple of days, this airlines moved out of Dubai airport, and Dubai airport was almost empty. That was in 1985. So you have an airport which is almost empty. Within a couple of days, they leased 2 aircraft actually from Pakistan Airways. They painted the logo of Emirates, whatever you've seen, and the whole Emirates Airlines had started. So out of challenge, he showed us that there is opportunity, and the opportunity that today you have one of the largest airlines in the world. That's hope. That's also value that you shouldn't give up as a government or as an entrepreneur. you need to determine the future yourself, actually. You need to fight it yourself. And you have to believe that there is no boundary and there is no limitation. The limitation is here, actually. So Emirates, one of the small example of entrepreneurship in United Arab Emirates. And there is so many different stories, but I was given only 10 minutes. So I am here to invite you and to announce the Global Entrepreneur Summit that will take place in the city of Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, which is a natural hub for entrepreneur. We have 200 nationalities that live in United Arab Emirates. That's, I'll say, always, we are not only good in the economic sense of our region, but our story is more of a human story, where there is a lot of ethnic clashes in our region, religious slaughter sometimes, and tolerance. Our story that we have 200 nationalities, all the religion of the world. They live in peace of harmony in one place. And we never had a single incident. And the message here, humanity can live together. People look at the Middle East and they say, this is tough. We live it when they have one hope. They have one mission. And they know that tomorrow is going to be a better day. People coexist. It doesn't matter which color they are from, which religion they are from, which sect they are from. So I hope all of you will be our guests and come and attend the conference and see it for yourself. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and thank you to all of our distinguished speakers. Many of them mentioned the importance of young people and ensuring that young people have the tools and the ability to start their own businesses and to be innovative. Before we take a short break, we are going to showcase just that sort of creativity and impact on the part of young people. And I'll just pause for a minute to also note, while we're talking about young people, and if you want to be generous as a young person myself, that there are a variety of people tweeting today with a variety of hashtags, both hashtag entrepreneurship, hashtag GES 2012 for the summit. So feel free, I think you get reception in here. The Global Innovation Through Science and Technology program GIST was launched shortly after the President's first Summit on Entrepreneurship and has already had a tremendous impact, touching thousands around the world and starting many thriving businesses, some of which you're going to hear about in a second. We're thrilled, as many of our speakers mentioned, to have 17 winners of last year's GIST competition here with us, and the finals will actually take place for this year's competition at the summit itself. They've been traveling around the United States, meeting with investors and entrepreneurs and policymakers, and from what I understand, American investors are falling over each other to invest in these guys. So at the break, if I were you, I would get in line pretty quickly. We're excited to hear from 3 of the winners now in a conversation that will be moderated by Acting Deputy Assistant Secretary of State, Jonathan Margolis, who's actually been spending quite a bit of time over the last couple weeks with them. So please, guys, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Andrew, for the introduction. And I must say it's a real pleasure for me to be here today to be able to talk with you about our entrepreneurs through the GIST program and the GIST program itself. We're in the White House, so I'm going to quote President Obama. "We believe entrepreneurs can create jobs that fortify relationships between countries, build markets, and help fulfill the dreams of all who desire the freedom to make of their lives what they will." Young entrepreneurs across the globe are applying their minds and their technical training to solve economic, development, and societal challenges. And through the efforts of the United States government programs and partnerships around the world, we are collectively strengthening the support networks, training opportunities, and innovation ecosystems that enable youth to develop products and start their own companies. Today, we will hear from some of the young entrepreneurs from one such program, the Global Innovation Through Science and Technology, or GIST initiative. Through a series of competitions, GIST identifies high potential technology entrepreneurs across Africa, the Middle East, Turkey, and Asia. It provides them with training, mentorship, networking opportunities to help them build their companies. GIST is implemented in partnership between the Department of State and CRDF Global, and we have the CEO of CRDF Global here today, Kathy Campbell. Hi, Kathy. Since it started operation about a year and a half ago, GIST has trained over 2,500 startups. We have linked almost 70,000 innovators across GIST countries and connected over 1 million youth with entrepreneurship resources through the State Department's Facebook platform, appropriately named Innovation Generation. And at this year's Global Entrepreneurship Summit, we will feature a new round of young entrepreneurs from the GIST competitions and the Youth Entrepreneurship Forum. In this room, as Andrew has mentioned, we have with us a group of 17 of the top young entrepreneurs, the cream of the cream from the GIST initiative. They have created state-of-the-art medical devices, green technologies, building materials, inventions that help the disabled earn a productive living, communications technologies. These young innovators are breaking down cultural barriers to entrepreneurship and inspiring other young entrepreneurs to take that chance to pursue their dreams. So let me introduce the three that you'll be hearing from. Ziad Sankari is founder of Cardio Diagnostics, immediately to my left. Hind Hubeka is the founder of Butterfly, in the middle. And Hassan Kader Mirza is with the Green Novation Technologies. What I'm going to do now is kind of turn the floor over to each of them, and they're going to briefly describe their themselves, I should say, and their companies. Ziad, why don't you go first?
Sure, thank you very much. It's a pleasant opportunity to be here among you. When we started Cardio Diagnostics, many people were telling us, are you going out of your minds? You're starting a medical technology company here in the Middle East where we are based. That was an example of the challenges that we face, of the cultural barriers that we face, of the lack of confidence that we face. But let me start by telling you a little bit more about Cardio Diagnostics. So the idea or the spark started from a very personal story. I lost my father to a heart attack when I was only 17. And since then, I've been dedicating most of my education, my research, and my life trying to find a technology that can alert to early signs of heart attacks. And after years of research, part of which I have conducted here in the United States, the team that I work with and I were able to come up with a technology that can monitor heart patients outside of hospitals for long periods of time. And we can detect the early signs that could tell a person could go through a heart attack. We could alert to it, find the patient, and send them help necessary to save their lives. We chose to start that in the Middle East, so we have lower costs there. We have seen certain opportunity in there. But the story of coming up and pushing forward through this kind of innovation was not easy at all. Having a technology startup is not something we are used to back, and having it in the medical field in particular is not something easy either. But I see the vibe and the spirit growing slowly and slowly in the region, trying to create something out of it. So we are excited about what's coming next.
Thanks, Ziad. Hein, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. So my story is very straightforward. So I've always been a swimmer, and I've always been part of swimming teams. But when I made it to the varsity team of my university back in Lebanon, things got a bit more technical. So we were required to measure all kinds of parameters. So our number of flip turns, our number of laps, but also our heart rate. And what we used to do is manually count our heart rate for 60 seconds after each race. So for a 30-second race, we needed to count for 60 seconds afterwards how we had performed. And I didn't find it logical, especially as an engineering student. So I've always had the concept back in mind of something very seamless and small that would fit with the biomechanics of swimming that would help me track my training stats. And so I had the opportunity to go to Qatar and participate in a competition. And that's where I built my first prototype. Now, my first prototype didn't look like this, but this is after a year of research. And so it's just a tiny module that you put on the straps of the swimming goggles. And so it doesn't require any additional module like all of the watches and the belts. And it tracks all kinds of training stats, so the heart rate from the tempos, but also the calories, the laps, the flip turns. And this helps swimmers, not just me, optimize their workout and be able to track their progress over time because it syncs to the computer and to the iPhone and all of that. And so after going to Qatar and winning that the third prize of that competition, it has been a real roller coaster ever since. So I filed for a patent in the US, and I got some seed funding from Berytech, which is a fund back home in Lebanon. And we're today 5 people. We're a very strong design team, and we've evolved the prototype so much. So this is not the final version, but the final version is now in manufacturing. But the first prototype was 170 grams, and this is just 20. So just to tell you how much we've been working and how much we've been improving things. And we're launching in 2013, hopefully here in the US, because the market for swimming is very huge. And so this is my story.
Thanks, Hind. Hassan?
Our story is kind of different from Ziad and Hind, because in Bangladesh, it's a country of like 164 million people. And all of us, a bunch of MBA students in the University of Dhaka, traces our route in the village areas. Though we are studying in the University of Dhaka, which is in the capital, but all our roots are in the villages. And we have seen, like, technology is not the primary concern that we have to address. The problem that we have to address is the medication for people, the shelter for the people, and obviously the food. So then we came to know about this great innovation. It's called Jutine, which was invented by one of our scientists from the Bangladesh Atomic Energy Commission. And this is a housing material which is like 40% less expensive from the existing alternatives in the market. So this is made from jute fiber, which is a plant, and also this is mixed with the resin. And we have developed this, and we are trying to do this business to sell this to the poor people to solve the problem of homelessness in Bangladesh.
Thanks, Hassan. Please. I've had the privilege of traveling with you during your travels here in the United States to Silicon Valley, and I think one of the things you heard there was the importance of having role models.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, who are your role models?
Well, this is a very good question because it's always good to learn from success stories. And we look at typical success stories that you in the United States look at, the big companies, the young entrepreneur, the young spirits like Mark Zuckerberg. We use the Facebook every single day, every hour probably. And these are the cliche stories. But we also have our own stories back in the Middle East with some young entrepreneurs turning big companies, Farid Gandour, Aramex, the Yamli, the famous example. But I have my own perspective at entrepreneurship. I personally believe my mom is the strongest and most ambitious entrepreneur in the sense that she defied the odds of raising us under very difficult circumstances. She always supported our ventures and our endeavors to go against the stream, against the mainstream. When I left my job, everybody was like, you're losing a big opportunity, but she was the only one who was supporting me. Leave it, quit it, and pursue your dream. So I look at her highly as my example.
So I'm very tempted to say Steve Jobs, but because I admire so much his design principles, and we're a design company, and so I would like to go along with his principles, but I think a role model has a much bigger impact when it's someone I personally know. And so I've been following really closely Ayab Did, who is the founder of Little Bits. If some of you don't know this company, it's small electronic modules that clip together to teach kids about electronics. And so Aya was my mentor in the competition in Qatar, and I've been following up really closely her journey as an entrepreneur, and she's been really successful so far. And to me personally, knowing her and knowing that as a Lebanese who's lived in Lebanon and had a similar education, she was able to go this far. It's a great source of inspiration to me, and I always seek for her help whenever I need it.
So entrepreneurship is still a growing concept in Bangladesh. So my role models are those who I haven't seen in action. But first, I would like to mention about Dr. Muhammad Yunus, the Nobel Peace Prize winning Grameen Bank founder from Bangladesh, who has impacted millions of lives in Bangladesh. And we have seen closely the impact that Grameen Bank has created in Bangladesh to change the millions of female entrepreneurs. And then I'm not tempted, I would definitely mention Steve Jobs, because he was kicked out of his own company, and then he came back and changed Apple to a world-famous organization, and that really inspired me a lot. So these two stories.
Thanks. Each of you in your own way have talked about the specific circumstances in which you operate. Could you, for our audience, maybe describe what you see as some of the cultural barriers you see to what you're trying to accomplish with your businesses?
All right, you can pretty much see from all of our stories that the innovation comes out of pain, and in our part of the world, we probably have more pain than anywhere else, so you would expect naturally to see more innovations. But the culture, the culture that we have back home needs a little bit of a change. I have often been met with the argument that no, we can't. If that was possible, somebody else in the West or in Japan or in other countries would have done it. And I personally totally oppose to that idea. I believe that we can do a lot, that we can find our niche in our cultural pain, because we understand our markets better, we understand what we need better, and we can address these things quite well. Access to funding is another problem that we have been facing a lot. Not funding in the sense that we lack money in the region. There is a lot of money, but venture money, risk money is lacking in the region.
I've personally had different challenges. No one has ever called me crazy, and I didn't find it very hard to get my first round of seed funding. But what I found really hard was to find the right talent and the right people to work with. So I spent around 8 months looking for a good engineer to work with me. And it's not because we lack talent back in Lebanon, but it's because people are not in the mindset that, oh, I graduate and then I join a startup. They're more likely to be tempted to join a very big company and have the safer path. And so it was very challenging for me to find the right team to work with, but luckily I did.
Most of the parents in Bangladesh are go crazy if they heard that someone wants to go to entrepreneurship, not a traditional job like in the banks or any other financial institutions or any big companies. So this is one of the cultural barriers that we find in Bangladesh. And there's another one I would like to mention, that, for example, when the people in Bangladesh have a great idea, the students, but they don't know what to do with that idea, who to go, how they will attract the investment, how to implement that idea. So the entrepreneurial ecosystem is not very much structured in Bangladesh. So this is another barrier for the students who have brilliant ideas in themselves and they're dying inside. This is another thing.
You mentioned the innovation ecosystem. You've all been exposed to it now here in the United States, and we don't have a manual to describe it very well. But you've seen all the different pieces of it, the university systems, the venture capitalists, what the government does, what the private sector role is, the technologies, all those sorts of things. Let me ask you to reflect on something. You can tell from all the speakers that you've heard that we're very proud of our system in the United States. But we can always learn something. Are there things you'd like the United States to do differently about its ecosystem, its innovation ecosystem?
I think the innovation ecosystem has been working pretty well here. But what I like to see is more bridges between our part of the world, especially the Middle East, and the United States. Because, for example, I work in manufacturing, but when I look around me, I can't find anyone back in Lebanon who can help me in manufacturing. So I wish it was easier for me to find someone who had that expertise in the States and have this bridge shorter. I'm not saying it's impossible today, but I have to go through one person who knows a person who knows a person. I just wish the bridge was shorter.
Hassan, do you have thoughts on this?
Yes, I think outsourcing the expertise from the US to the third world countries and so many other countries will be a great thing to do. Because we have the ideas, but we don't know how to implement them. Maybe the expertise from the USA and the developed countries will help us a lot to bridge the gap.
Yeah.
All right, and since I'm in the medical device and medical systems, you probably know very well the FDA's rules and regulations are keeping a lot of the innovations much longer from the market than it should have. So a lot of clinical trials now are moving to Latin America or to Europe, so maybe a little bit twisting with the system would make things easier to reach the market.
So just a truth of advertising, the group actually met with representatives of the FDA yesterday, and FDA heard that directly from them. So I'm not sure if that'll spur the change, but we'll see. One of the things you've heard people talk about already, that we have 17 folks here from the GIST initiative. And so let me ask you guys, most of these people you hadn't met before. You may have met one or two in various events, but most of them you haven't met before. Do you have any reflections on what it means to be an entrepreneur now that you've had a chance to interact for the past 10 days? Are you guys a different breed from everybody else? Are you crazy? I mean, tell us about that.
Well, it looks like we all agreed, the 17 of us, that we are all crazy, in a sense. So basically, it looks like every one of us has been trying to defy and go against a very difficult set of obstacles back in our home countries, from Africa, South Asia, the Middle East. We all face similar problems, but it looks like we all have this same passion to create something, to add value. None of us is looking for the money as an end goal. We're looking at it as a means to bring our innovations, but we all share this passion to create something new and add value to our societies and to the world. And this is probably a great opportunity to thank the GIST initiative who brought us together and give us the opportunity to see what's happening in the United States. Ovi and the rest of the team have been pushing us forward to learn a lot about each other and about the system in general. What do you think?
I think that what has happened during these past 2 weeks is actually bridges have been built between the Middle East and North Africa and Southeast Asia. But I mean, every single one of the transformers, that's what they call us, every single one of them is really a source of inspiration to me, because each one of them have their own passion and their own determination. And I've found ways to work with many of the people here, and it just has presented opportunities, even just being together and not even taking us around. I mean, it was absolutely amazing, and yeah, I couldn't emphasize more. Thank you just for doing this.
I think this is the opportunity that I should take to thank the GIST initiative for doing this. I mean, 16 of us who never knew each other, and we're now together for 2 weeks, and we have been learning from each other a lot about their countries, about their culture, and the problems they're addressing in their own countries. For example, James in Malaysia is addressing the problem of security on females with SecuMe. Then there is someone else from Senegal with different issues. There are so many great things that are going around, and this is the opportunity that brought us together to work with each other, I guess.
So let me ask you, I guess, one final question that I'm going to ask for maybe 1 or 2 questions from the audience. So think of some things. You guys, you'll leave the United States soon.
Soon.
What's the one thing that you think you'll take back to your home countries based on what you've experienced here?
You're looking at me.
If you like me to start. Actually, the take-home lesson is incredibly, is a set of long and interesting examples of how the dynamics of the system here work and how we can replicate elements of this system in our own culture, in our own model, without necessarily copying it. So part of what we have been doing in the past, and probably in a wrong way, is to copy something and assume that it's automatically is going to plug into the system and apply. We have our own culture, we have our own challenges, we have our own mentalities, so we can learn a lot about how things are going in harmony in here in the United States, and go back and try to replicate the elements that let the system grow and move forward.
And?
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and I realize that replicating the model is not easy because there's a whole cultural impact needed to be done. But what I honestly want to do now is just go back home and start working and transmit the energy that I've gained during this trip back to my team and just work harder and faster in order to make things happen.
I think I'm going to take back home like two things. One is the learning from here, visiting 4 cities, meeting with investors, and all the other great programs that just like created for us. So, and I'll try to spread all the experience that I've gathered from here in my community to foster entrepreneurship in Bangladesh. And definitely the second one is the friendship of all these brilliant and amazing people.
So because they're so efficient, in addition to be entrepreneurial, we do have a couple of minutes, not many, but a couple of minutes for some questions. Let me start over here with Osama Fayyad.
Hi.
And could you identify yourself, even though I already did?
Okay. Osama Fayyad, Oasis 500 in Jordan. How much did, if you could, each of you say how much capital did you raise and where did you raise it from? And how difficult was that? If any.
Yeah, so I won 2 competitions, and that gave me 150K, and I raised another 100K from Beritech.
Do you want to go?
Again, it was really hard to find investment in Bangladesh, so we participated in like 3 and 4 competitions, and we raised $70,000 from there, but no other external investment yet.
So here's more advertising for the GIST. I'm the first prize winner of the GIST competition, so I got $20,000 from that, in addition to a lot worth and in-kind services. We have signed the term sheet with one of the investors to give us funding more than $500,000, but we have not completed the deal, so the name will stay confidential for the time being. If you're interested, talk to us.
I have a question in the back of the room.
If you had a computer system that would help you speed your innovation cycle, what would it have in it?
A lot of money. Dispenser, ATM machine. Well, probably one important thing is to try to change the mentality. If you're talking about our innovation in particular, we need access to manufacturing technology, we need access to coaching, we need access to expertise. But in general, for the region, we need access to a mentality changer machine, something that can tell us that yes, we can achieve, we can do, we can create. It's not something that is only limited to certain geographic areas. Whenever there is a pain, there is room for innovation.
I honestly just need a bunch of engineers, because I only have 1 engineer and 1 designer working on one idea, and I have maybe 15 other ideas in my head. So if your machine can give me 15 engineers and 15 designers, and we could launch a couple of products at the same time, and that way people can see that there's a startup based in Beirut that's launching 15 products at the same time, and the culture will change maybe based on that.
I think I would go for a machine that will tell me that the investor that promises us money, whether they will be actually giving the money or not. So like we have talked with hundreds of investors, and yes, we'll be giving you the money. How much do you need? Just tell me. But at the end, I mean, we get nothing.
This will be our last question.
Being crazy probably is something we mentioned earlier. I believe it's there in not only in our particular character, but it's there innate in our culture. But we need to find it and dig inside and try to pull it out. I'm teaching in one of the universities in Lebanon, and like all of the engineers, I ask them, "Do you think we can start a company?" They're like, "No, we can't do it." Then you give them example about people from our class, our university, our community who did it. They're like, oh, maybe we can now. So it's all about thinking outside the box, having the courage to say no to a job opportunity, and saying yes to a little bit of poverty until you end up pushing your idea to the next level. So yeah, that's that kind of things.
For me, what works are two things. First of all, the passion. So I might have the founder syndrome that I'm absolutely in love with my product. I'm still debating that, but I like it so much, and I'm the first customer that would buy something like that. So this is what drives me. But there's also the fact that every single day that I work on this product, I learn so much, and I don't think I could ever learn this much and grow this much if I were just having a normal standard job.
I think it is ambition for me and the creativity. I was talking about a bunch of MBA students. So we came together, and just that creativity inside of us and the ambition, like watching Mark Zuckerberg in front of us. So that ambition and thinking big, that would be the things.
So we're about to close, but before we do, I think we're going to go to a break. Andrew will, I'm sure, take over the floor. But before you give the three panelists your applause, I'd like just to recognize the other 14 who joined the trip, because we'll have a chance to, I think, talk informally, and if you'd like to go up and meet some of them personally, other transformers, if you just raise your hands so people can see who you are. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. As Jonathan mentioned, we will have a quick coffee break. There's coffee and water outside. I am obliged to tell you, you cannot bring it in here, so it may be a little bit chilly, but it's out there. We will start the next session promptly at 2:35. Moving forward, we've got a number of sessions, panel sessions, that are going to be interactive with audience participation, delving into a number of the critical issues that have come up thus far. See you in 15 minutes.